Okay, again, we'll call this meeting to order. This is Wednesday, April 6, 2022. Special meeting for the budget workshop of the Town of Andover Board of Finance. We'll call the meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everybody. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda is public speak. Anybody in the public who wants to speak? Eric, are you administering or?
I am administering. The only person I can see here on it is from the phone, and I'm pretty sure that's Marina Pandolfi. I don't think there's any members of the public here.
who's the KK, Kincaid?
That is Amy Knox, who's doing the minutes for the meeting.
Oh, okay, new person, okay. You told us that last time, okay.
Well, she's just using a different computer, so
Different signing last week, so.
different son's name.
Okay, confusing the old people.
Okay, okay, so we have no public speak. We'll move on to agenda item 3, which is the budget workshop for the fiscal year 2022-2023. I think it'd be appropriate for us to start with Eric kind of giving an intro and some explanations for some of the changes. He did send out around a revised budget file late today. Probably most of you hadn't had a chance to really look at it. I haven't. Did discuss some of the changes briefly with Eric, but I think that would be appropriate for us to review those here. Eric, you good with that?
Yep. Give me 2 seconds. Let me just make sure I have the right one up. Okay, you should be seeing the screen.
Yeah.
So I did revise. We went through. Diane Choquette graciously provided me with a list of all the things that she wanted reviewed at the last meeting. So we did 2 things. One, we went through and we commented in a lot of spots we didn't have comment before. Explanations about why things are the way they are. So I see one error right off the bat, but I'll deal with that later. We'll just kind of go down through it and talk about the things that, I did make changes to. Number one, the actuarial services, I did bump that up about $300. And the reason I did that, because
Hold
we
on,
finally
Eric.
got,
I'm just trying to find the line number you're on.
I'll highlight it.
Okay, 117, row 117. Okay, I'm good if I know the row numbers. Okay.
Okay, so the reason we did that is because we finally got the second bill, which completes our, billing for actual services. And the total was $5,200. So I made the assumption that probably going to go up a little bit next year, and I bumped that up $100. What we were estimating was less than we actually got charged this year, so it seemed likely that it was going to be the same or more next year. If anybody has heartburn with that, I suppose I can turn it back down if you want to discuss that further. Is everybody okay with that one?
I'm good with it.
Okay, so this was a previous question that you had is, why is this up when we haven't really spent the money? Again, it's a reval year. We do expect to deal with a few lawsuits. However, because of the actions of the Board of Assessment Appeals, the fact that they pretty much granted everybody everything they wanted for reductions, I suspect we're not going to spend all of that. So I left that yellow because potentially we could reduce that if you're looking to, reduce, because at this point it's looking like we might have a lawsuit. There's really only one person that I know of that seems to be unhappy with the process at this point. So that's a judgment call. I leave it up to you whether you want to try to reduce that or let it roll. Normally in a reval year, we assume we're going to get sued at least 3 or 4 times. We may still, but right now it's looking pretty good.
So, question, so that legal services for the assessor, we don't budget in under the assessor?
No, because we've always budgeted that in the, we've always done all legal in a, under a, under one placeholder in the budget. Now, we did carve out about 4 years ago, we did carve out the legal counsel for the Planning and Zoning Commission. And that was because we made a decision to not just have that cover legal, but legal and professional services. Therefore, we took it out of the regular attorney spot and we put it into the directly into the Planning and Zoning Commission's budget. If you think it's more appropriate to put it in the assessor's line item, we certainly can.
Oh, correct me if I'm wrong. So we didn't have any actual expenses from last fiscal year.
Right,
Under
we
the-
would not have expected to have much.
We've only spent
Last year.
$600. So I guess if we need to make a cut somewhere, do we really need $6,000? I don't know. That's just
Right, I
question.
mean, so far this year, the only legal settlement that we had was we were taken to court once over a automobile assessment. And we prevailed, so we didn't actually pay the person any, but we did pay attorney's fees to litigate or to deal with that.
Well, how do you want to do this, Mark? Do you want to make changes as we go or just discuss? I mean,
I think, let's give Eric a chance to do an overview. Let's see what the overall impact is, and then let's make notes and come back. Otherwise, I think we may end up getting too bogged down in some of the minutia. I want to make sure we hit any significant impacts first. I think
Okay.
that one is an opportunity for reduction, so we can certainly talk about that, but I think let's go through this first.
Okay. So the next big one is based on the Board of Selectmen's decision to resplit the treasury departments of the town and the school.
Eric, you want to explain that? I'm not sure everybody knows that, is aware of it.
Sure. At the last at a Board of Selectmen special meeting several weeks ago, the Board of Selectmen made a decision to split the combined treasury office back into a town treasury office and an AES treasury office. Flip side of that is the town will maintain Marina to do most of the work in that office, but they are looking for a very part-time treasurer to oversee that office. Diane, do you have anything more you want to say about that since you were at the meeting?
no, that's basically in a nutshell. So we have to, put a placeholder in for a potential cost for next year. I don't think, once we restructure everything and get everything organized, it shouldn't be a big cost position because it's going to be just a few hours. My only other question is on this spreadsheet now, Eric, it looks very misleading because it doesn't say that there's an increase for this, and this is a new item. So I think it's important for people to know when there's something new, because it's really not a 0% increase. It is an increase there. I mean, it's probably being picked up in the dollars for the total increase at the end, but not on the line.
Yeah, the problem
Right.
is you get a divide by zero function, so it gets
Right,
weird if you do that.
it's-
Yeah.
It's actually an infinite increase, if you think about that. I mean, there's
Yeah,
no
so
way to
that will
capture
throw an
that.
error. I mean, you could just flag it as,
Should we just put something in there for that column for ease of understanding? Instead of showing 0%, just put new, NEW?
You gotta, it means you gotta take a formula out though. That like gives me a little
There's
bit of
no
willies.
formula in there now, is there? Oh, there is one.
There should be.
Can we go back to saying the line item that we're discussing? I can't see it. It's tiny on my screen, just so that I can follow with my papers too.
Okay,
So it's row 129, 128.
Thank you. Just as we go. I mean, I won't interrupt every time, but just at the
Sure.
beginning, just say row, one, thank you.
it's actually 128.
Yeah, I'm off one.
The
I can't
salary
read.
treasurer,
I
yeah.
mean, I have this, but I don't. Thank you.
I guess I hate to give something to the public that says something's a 0% increase when it's not.
Yeah, well, the same can be said for the legal, oh no, okay, never mind.
I mean,
Yeah.
right.
And that's gonna show up for things that are like a brand new item on the spreadsheet. Do you know what I mean?
Well, let's see what happens if I delete it.
So there's just, that's just up for discussion as far as how to show it. I mean, doesn't have to be resolved right away. But it's misleading to say it's 0%.
Right. I mean, we can leave those blank if you would like.
Leave it blank and then at least put we're going to publish this with the notes column, right?
Yes.
So we probably should put an explanation in the notes.
I did. I said new part-time treasurer.
It says
You want
part-time
more of an
treasurer. It says part-time treasurer.
Right, new part-time treasurer.
We'll put new then.
It says new part-time treasurer.
Oh, well, my spreadsheet doesn't say that. So you changed it since you sent it out. Okay.
Hmm,
Right,
this is
that's
possible. I don't think so, but maybe I did. If I did, I apologize.
Unless it's, yeah, the one I got says part-time. Okay, that's fine.
good. Yeah,
Okay.
same here,
Just says part-time.
yeah.
Okay, my error. Okay, so next line item, we had been going back and forth trying to find the actual numbers on this. Edmonds, the yearly cost is $4,400 for the first, each year for the first 3 years. So we'll split that evenly with AES. That's $2,200. So that's, we had a placeholder before, that's the actual value of that.
Okay, so again, we probably need to put an explanation that this is the first year for the.
Yeah,
annual.
yeah. So you're right. It was just zero in there typed in. So we just put new or something like that.
Right.
Fine.
Okay.
So Eric, why
Yes.
are we splitting that evenly with the school?
Because we're both using the software.
I know, but same amount of time for each? Basically?
I can't tell you exactly how many hours the town and the school use respectively. Yeah, I mean,
That was agreed upon, I assume, when you first got it?
yeah, there was an understanding that we were gonna split the costs of it.
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was the agreement.
all right.
Okay, is everybody okay with that one?
Yeah.
Okay, we dealt with that before. We did change the name per your request to contracted software maintenance, as opposed to just software. Because that's more descriptive of what that line item actually covers. That's number 165. You also asked me about extensive notes about exactly what the bills were for the town clerk, the elections, and the registrar of voters. I'm not going to go through everything, but I went through with both Carol and Wally as to exactly what those line expenditures cover, and put that in the notes. So you have that to read at your leisure, what those, what the actual items are that make up that budget. You asked me to review the salary for elections. I did, and I went over with Wally, what their anticipated number of elections and, need for poll workers. So basically, there's two buckets for that. There's the things that we know and then the unknown things. The known things are the state elections and the local elections. We know how many those are, and we know roughly what we need for personnel and hours for those. The unknowns are the number of referendums. Like, for instance, we had the RAM referendum. We didn't predict that when we had the last budget. We have no idea how many budget referendums we're going to go through. We don't know how many RAM referendums they're going to go through. So that's a number that will accomplish, the majority of years. This will be enough to cover the budget. The $500 increase is just straight cost of the hourly wage increase for those employees. Wally did say there are two poll workers that are, or two of the poll workers based on their job description that get minimum wage. Those will go up to $14 an hour. But he thinks that's enough to cover all the wages for the elections this year. So, and then you asked about, kind of what the training budgets were and what the servicing was. The servicing is for the tabulator machines. We actually have gotten them serviced once. We just have not gotten the billing yet. They're about to get serviced again prior to the referendums. And the next line item down, which is the supplies, that's another one of those very variable numbers, because it depends a lot on whether we do a simple paper ballot or an actual machine tabulated ballot. If we do, we have to purchase the ballots. They're fairly expensive. And we also have to get the memory cards reprogrammed each time we have an election. And that's a minimum of $500 per pop if we do a machine tabulated election. So, and that decision will be made depending on how many questions and what questions you as a board want to ask at the referendum. So that is that. Let me just roll back. So you had a question about why we had expended only half of this. The registrars and the assistant registrars get paid twice a year. This is incorrect because they incorrectly assigned the cost to the assistant registrars under the registrar category. We will have that sorted out in the next day or so. That's why this is slightly more than half the total, and this is spent. So we figured that out. So you also asked about the cost of prime pay and whether that is an exact cost or whether that's an estimated cost. In answer to your question, that is an estimated cost because we pay per payroll. Not every month has the same payroll. They charge us extra when they do W-2s. So looking at it holistically, that seems to be, in a normal year, it should cost about $7,000 if we do our part correctly with, now that we have the time card system. Because the time card system does decrease our costs slightly because it decreases the work they had to do on their end. This line right here for furnace maintenance, we went back and forth. There was a lot more than this, than what's indicated there, that's been expended in furnace maintenance. That was, a lot of that was taken out of building maintenance, which, going back and looking at it, because we've had such a problem with the furnaces, I think it makes sense to separate those line items in the actual budget. So I'm going to suggest that we do that. So in a normal year, servicing on the furnace is about $180 to $200. And then that gives us one breakage service call. So that's kind of what that is. You had the question of that. If you guys prefer, we can just wrap furnace maintenance into building maintenance and just increase the building maintenance. That's the call. The only reason I like to keep it separated is I think our furnace maintenance costs are high enough. We want to kind of track separately. Again,
But
that's a board of,
Didn't we have a lot of furnace maintenance costs this year?
yes, that's most of
So we don't
that
have
is
We don't have a year-to-date number in there, so.
right, because we put that, because we build that as building maintenance, not as furnace maintenance.
Okay,
So
so,
we-
so if we had
Right.
costs that had to do with the furnace, why would we put under building maintenance, and not furnace maintenance? So I don't understand the difference then.
Well, because I think in the budget, there is no furnace. In the actual budget, there was no furnace maintenance line item. So we have to do one of two things. We either have to get rid of the furnace maintenance budget here and put those costs into building maintenance, or we have to put a furnace maintenance line in our regular budget. And my suggestion is we put the furnace maintenance line in our actual budget, which is what I've asked them to do. However, that's something that, depending on what you want to do, we could easily go either way on that one.
Well, since we haven't booked any year-to-date expense on here, and we're now budgeting for it, if the expenses were charged to building maintenance this year, then it seems like we should be using the building maintenance account.
I mean, if you would like to do that, the only reason.
Because how would someone know which goes where if we had two accounts? How would someone know where to book the bill?
You know, that is a good point. My only concern in tracking furnace maintenance is I think that's, we're spending enough money on that. I feel like we probably should consider tracking that separately. But I'm not hard.
Hey, if you think
If
it's
you guys wanna-
trackable, then we should have a year-to-date expense and we should fix it. Because if we put all the furnace maintenance stuff under building maintenance this year, and now we're just gonna pull out $500, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yes.
It
Do you
would be
follow what I'm
clearer to
saying?
have that. You know, my view is you probably keep that separate line item. When I think of building maintenance, I think of things like painting, patching, tile work, things like that, not mechanicals. You know, they tend to often be budgeted in a separate line. And if it's significant, as you say, it probably makes sense to have it on a separate line.
I mean, I don't care either way. You know, you can, in the $500 basically will cover minimum routine maintenance. Anything more than that, you know, we're not budgeting for anyway, and that comes out of the building maintenance fund or the townwide building maintenance fund if it's bad enough.
So again, we get a bill, the furnace broke down, the repair guy comes out to fix it. Someone gets the bill, how do they know where to put it? Building maintenance or furnace maintenance?
Well, that's true for every bill, right? I mean, somebody's got to make a judgment call on where it gets coded. So,
I know, because we had a lot of furnace issues this year, and we put it all under building maintenance. So now we don't have a history. Do you know what I mean? What I'm saying, we don't have a history to look at.
Right, but I mean, the other question is like, you know, you have to decide, what do you consider under furnace maintenance? Do you consider the boiler also? It's not technically a furnace, but it's a heating apparatus. Do you consider the AC systems part of furnace maintenance? You know, most of that stuff I consider under building maintenance. The only thing I would have considered under furnace maintenance is the annual cost of a boiler, you know, tune-up, or a furnace tune-up. That's, in my mind, that's what I would have charged to furnace maintenance. And everything else I would have put in the regular building maintenance account.
As long as we keep it right that way, and we're not mixing the two accounts, the expenses between the two accounts. I'm fine.
Right.
It's the consistency. That's all.
Yep, I understand. I understand. Other questions about that? So you want to keep it separate, or do you want to combine them?
This is Kurt. I'd like to keep it, combine them. I mean, it's all, everything comes under building maintenance, at least with us next door, and we've never had a problem. You do keep records of when a furnace has got some extra problems, but I think for our sake, just keeping a single would be the best.
I was gonna suggest the opposite, but I'm open to anything too, because I know, yeah, whatever you all decide. You know more.
I'm neutral.
I'm
I'd
Switzerland.
probably prefer to Eric on that and keep it separate. If he wants to track it separate, he's the one tracking, managing the expenses.
I mean, I can see, and I'll just throw a different thought out there. I can see keeping track of it separately. If we think we have an old furnace and we're trying to determine what it's costing us to keep that thing running versus general building maintenance, do you know what I mean? But if we're not going to book those expenses there, then what value does it bring to us knowing that the annual maintenance tune-up is $500 a year? We were trying to track, this furnace is costing us a lot of money now because it's getting old. We're spending $3,000 a year on repairs and stuff. Then I can see tracking it separately, but that's just my 2 cents.
Eric, is that furnace going to be part of the new addition, or Diane, is that going to be part of the new addition? The furnace for the 2 separate ones?
Well, we should be converting to propane when we do go to and I think the town's has in its future plans to convert to propane. Once the
Well,
community comes online.
Wouldn't it be feasible at the time of construction to do them both together and finish it up once and for all? Then you're starting fairly new across the board. The school's in good, they're in good shape. The firehouse is in good shape. Get the new community center and the in town hall in good shape. And what else are we looking at? I'd rather spend the money now than later. It's gonna be probably double the cost later on. Hopefully the committee's looking into that.
Kurt, we are talking about that, and we have gotten some preliminary estimates for converting the town to propane. The only thing we're holding out is the architect had indicated he thought the appropriate solution for the new building was to go to an all ductless split. So I don't want to commit the town to changing over to propane right now until we know definitively whether the new community center, what the fuel source, what the heating source is going to be for that. But yes, those should be done thoughtfully together. Okay, the other question that we had lots of comments on was the software maintenance and why we were so far over. So this will get corrected. We pulled that line item apart today and looked at it. There's kind of 2 things that push the majority of the overage in it. The first is the fact that we did have to pay for point and pay this year. And we used that line item to cover the cost of the software for point and pay, which I'm not sure that's necessarily the best spot because that's kind of in some ways a shared service, even though it is a software service. And the second thing is the finance department had incorrectly booked the cost for Civic and Civic Plus, which is our website and emergency alert system, to that line item, which is a little over $4,000. So when you back those 2 things out, that budget is about $1,000 overspent this year, which puts the line item in roughly the right spot for software maintenance.
So what is the software maintenance for the town office building?
So
what's
there are a bunch of things. There's, we maintain one copy of an Adobe suite.
So it's licensing then?
Yeah, it's
like,
mostly licensing. It
okay.
is majority of that, or a large chunk of that, is Office 365. But the town does have a bunch of other small software packages that they purchase.
So they're gonna move that point and pay over to the building department then?
Well, I mean, I think that's probably appropriate to reclassify that in the building department
Okay.
because it is a building department expense.
All right.
Okay.
How come there's no year-to-date expense for website fees?
Because they incorrectly booked it in software maintenance. That's one of the questions I had today. Because I know I signed the bill for Civic Plus already and I didn't see any expense. So that's when we dug for it, we realized part of the reason that's why that was incorrectly coded to software maintenance. So that will be corrected.
That's gonna be
It's just
corrected, okay,
not updated here yet.
okay.
Okay. We did also, one of the things we did end up changing is we took out the old T911 line item and just left the Tallinn 911 dispatch line. Just because it was really confusing with two names and two coded numbers. We also changed the number because everywhere else we use the last three 490 for alarm monitoring. So it didn't make sense for us to call in the town office building right here, which is 268, give that the same number as alarm monitoring and then have to come up with a different number for alarm monitoring. So just to make the chart of accounts more logical and keep the same 490, we left that for alarm monitoring and changed dispatch to 493. So hopefully that makes sense to you all. Does everybody understand that?
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right.
Okay, so question, why do we have alarm monitoring there under town office building? And we have to put a number in there, so that's gonna be another new expense?
So basically what happened is roughly a year ago, up to a year ago, the Tallinn Dispatch Center acted as our alarm monitoring service. They notified the towns that they would no longer be providing that service. So it was no longer wrapped into the T911 bill that we paid. We had to do a standalone bill for it. So we went out to RFP. We interviewed a whole bunch of different alarm companies. We picked one and we converted the town over to a cellular monitoring system. And we booked the cost to essentially each department for that. So that's essentially what's happened here. It is a new cost, but overall, it's not really a total cost because it's part of what's allowing us to reduce our telephone bill really dramatically because we're now able to give up the dedicated lines, hard lines that were used for that because we've converted them to a cellular modem, but we have to pay for the cellular modem and the monitoring of that. So,
Got it.
yep. Okay, the other question you had is why did we not have any expenses to date for the admin fee for Murph? So we just got the bill for the admin fee and the new Murph schedule, the new potential schedule for next year, which is not confirmed, but it does list the admin fee. That admin fee is going up to $3,640. And the way it's calculated is they charge us $130 per person for each active and retired member that's in the Murph system. And currently we have 13 active members and 15 retired members in Murph. Therefore, I adjusted that fee number to what the latest bill should be for next year. Okay, anybody?
So we pay that once a year, then you're saying?
Correct, and we have not paid that yet.
Okay.
Okay. So one of the concerns on line 370 that you had expressed was that we had the same line number for both salary and for things that were, you know, not really salary anymore because they were truly shared services. So we elected to use extension .105 for shared services, and we're going to change that across the board and use 105 for this line item and for the building official, because that is a shared service, and direct expenses for shared service going forward. So that is that change right there. We didn't change any numbers, just designation, so that it's clear what salary and what is a shared service. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. The other big question that we had outstanding was diesel costs. So, as you know, the cost of diesel has gone up pretty dramatically, you know, as has our usage of diesel. And the way this works, and this is a little hokey, and I think some point we're going to need to come up with a better mechanism to do this. And I don't know exactly how, but what happens is when we get a bill for diesel, we initially take it out of this account, but then we refund that account for what we charge the school for diesel and what we charge RAM for diesel and what we charge the fire department for diesel. So at the end of the year, this backs out to only the costs that Public Works has for diesel. So Public Works, according to Jay, looking at our usage so far, should use approximately 5,400 gallons this year in a full 12-month calendar year. That equates at our new price for diesel somewhere around $13,000, presuming we don't use more diesel next year than we do this year. So that $14,000 number, if we use exactly the same number of dollars, you know, at our contracted cost, would be about 1,000 high, but that accounts for some small amount more diesel usage. So that's what that number represents.
So you're paying less than $2.50 for a gallon?
Right now, we're paying $1.81 a gallon.
Wow. Okay, good deal.
Yep. We negotiate those pretty hard and lock them in early. Next year, we're going to be paying about $2.26, I think, or $7. So it's a big increase.
247 by the, if I calculate it. Oh, no, I'm sorry, 241 roughly.
What, you mean the 14,000 number?
13,000 divided by 5,400 is 2.407. Yeah.
Then my math is off a little bit.
Oh, you had 13,000 in your you had 13,000 in your note, but it's 14,000 in the budget. Sorry. Yeah, it's 2.59.
Yeah, our lock-in should be around 227. So with all the fees, it should be around 235 out the door next year.
Okay. Yeah, so
so
it's
that-
rounding.
that-
Yep.
Right, that number may be a little high, but it's not a lot high, is what I'm
Still a
saying.
good price.
Gasoline, again, we're still using the assumption of $4 a gallon. Where that's going, I have no idea. I did back out a lot of the lines. I can back out all these lines. Well, I can't because they were in last year's budget. Sorry, that's why I didn't back them out. I did get rid of a lot of the superfluous lines. So it didn't show up. You asked me last time about the overtime for snow removal budget. I just wanted to remind you that that does include the temporary workers. We've never broken out the cost of temp labor that we use in snow removal. We put all of that in this bucket.
Oh, I have this highlighted as something for us to discuss because year to date, we spent $19,000. Whether 15,000 is going to be the right number going forward.
Well, if you remember last year, you reduced that from 25,000 to 15,000. In the two previous years, we were both under $15,000. You know, this year we haven't had a ton of really big snow events, but we had a lot of icing events. So we spent a lot of time, you know, a lot of man hours, you know, and especially Sunday and holiday hours addressing, you know, conditions. So, I mean, again, I think in an average year, 15,000 will work, but, you know, probably every 3 or 4 years, we're going to bust that budget by somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000. You know, we typically budgeted 25,000, assuming we wouldn't ever exceed that. Last year, we backed that way off because you wanted to get a more average. So if you feel it's appropriate to put that back up, we certainly can. You know, that's a call, you know, kind of on your part, what you want to do. If we have last year, next year, we'll be under $15,000. If we have another this year, next year, we'll be over $15,000.
I'm just
Be
trying.
Over, you mean be over the budget of 15,000? I'm not sure what you're saying.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that $15,000 budget will cover in what has been the last 3 to 5 years, an average year,
Average
the
year.
last 3 to 5 years.
Right.
But it does not cover the snowier winters or the icier windows. So, you know, every 3 to 4 years, you're going to get one that exceeds this budget.
But by
you know.
$15,000, double, so we get a 30?
No, we're not at 15. So this year we spent about 19,000. So we went over the budget about $4,000.
Yeah, okay, I thought you said you would go over 15,000. I meant over by 15,000, but you're saying it'll be over that much. I'd keep it
Right.
at the average. I don't see any reason we couldn't cover that kind of overage out of contingency. We don't like to do it. But
Right.
I mean, that's
Yep.
my feeling about it. There's a reason we made that decision last year, and I think it makes sense.
Yep.
I
Just
agree
as
with
long
that,
as you
Mark.
as long as you
There
understand
is an
that.
increase in there. Do we want to take the increase out? Keep it at 15?
Well, I guess it would be for the reason of the increase. Is it because we think the average might be a little up, or is it because costs have increased? And that's the
Oh,
other
for-
factor. It's just your operating costs may well increase a little
Well,
bit.
this is just, that's salary expense, right? Hourly wage, right?
Well, yeah, well, I mean, first of all, you start off with a baseline 3% increase in salary. And then you also have to factor in the fact that one of the employees is going from maintainer 1 to maintainer 2. So we will be paying, you know, paid more for those hours that he is on the road.
But you're basing the budget number on roughly the same amount of hours worked, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so I
Correct.
think that that's a reasonable basis to make that slight increase from year to year. 'Cause our salary costs are going up, right? So,
Right. And, you know, the other thing I would say is that it depends very dramatically on when the snow events are. You know, snow events during the day, we don't care about because we deal with them as part of our regular, you know, it's at night and especially on Sundays when we're paying double time and holidays that we get hammered. And that's, you know, highly variable. Okay. Any other questions on that?
Oh,
You want me to wait?
no, I'm good.
she said no.
Okay. Again, we talked about this the last time. We did increase this a little bit from the original budget. because we got the estimates back from both Hebron Parks and Landon Park, which is Richard Corco. The only thing we still don't have is we still don't have a number for Andover Landscaping. Not because we're not trying, because both me and Scott are trying to get hold of Matt, the owner of Andover Landscaping. But, you know, he is just a very difficult guy to actually get a hold of.
The only thing we have to correct on this is we have to move that income that we booked in there because our year-to-date expenses are more than that. We credited that rental income off into that account, and we shouldn't be doing that. $7,500,
Okay.
correct?
Yep.
Eric,
The
do you
number
have
doesn't-
Matt's cell number?
I do not.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Just so the numbers can all jive, do you know what I mean? Because it looks like we're way under, and we're budgeting way high.
Right.
There's a
Yep.
history.
Okay. Da. You asked me to correct in the actual employee salary spreadsheet, put in the name of the deputy. I did that. I also cleaned up a couple of the things that were in there that were unclear about library employees. That's the other sheet I sent to you, and made sure that these two match, at least as far as I know. So again, we talked about this one before, and I don't know exactly how to handle it. This is kind of a stupid thing, but we really only need brush pile grinding every second year. Because it's cheaper to do it every 2 years and do a bigger bulk than bring them in, because the cost to bring them on site, you know, and set up is high. And we don't have enough volume that we need to do it every year unless we get a really bad storm where we have a super abundance of, you know, branches.
Is this
Would
a
the-
year we're gonna do brush pile removal?
Yeah, and this upcoming budget, we're gonna do brush pile removal. One of the possibilities would be to set this back down to $7,000 or $7,500 and just make a decision that we're gonna set up a standing fund for it and fund it at $7,500 each year, and then use that to pay for it whenever we grind it, like another standing fund. It's essentially a 2-year budget item. You know, every 2 years, we're gonna spend about $14,000. You know, again, you know, if it just depends how you want to handle it as a board.
Well, two ways we can handle it is like, you just budget for it every 2 years,
Right.
and just 1 year it's gonna be zero, the next year it's gonna go up, and the explanation will be it's the 2-year cycle. We're on the 2-year cycle and it goes up. I don't think creating just a separate fund for that small dollar amount is worth the effort. And the only other place I could think of putting that money is into the tree removal fund. Have it come out of there as a part of,
I tend to agree with you, Diane. It doesn't make sense to add another fund for it. I understand it does make it easier for us to avoid having to explain that every year. And I think what we did last year is we decided to split the difference, right? Is that why we're at 7,500? We just said, well, look, we'll just do this, and some years will be over and some years will be under. You know, it's a $14,000 swing if we don't do it that way from 1 year to the next. And I don't really feel strongly about either way.
yeah, so this year we have no expense, and so anyway we cut it, we still have to explain it to people, because you're gonna say, well, you only budgeted 7,500 last year, you didn't spend anything. you
Yeah,
know,
why
di-
are you just spending it this year?
Now, why you're spending 14, so, you know, you're still on that. This is the
Right.
year we're gonna do the piles.
And Diane, one of the reasons why I didn't want to move it to the tree budget is because that's a transfer station item. And I think it should remain within the transfer station budget.
Yeah, probably. And it's not strictly the trees that are cut and thing.
Right. And I don't know what the huge difference in cost is, you know, with the way trees are coming down. I don't know if and we probably have tons of room to store a big pile of brush, so you probably don't have to do it every year. It's almost better to have it yearly expense, but if it doesn't work out
Right.
economically, it's not worth it.
Right, I mean, the thing is, the mobilization cost to bring all that equipment out and set up the device for grinding on site makes it smarter to do it every 2 years. You know, we don't really have the storage to go 3 or 4 years and then the stuff's starting to rot, but 2 years is perfectly reasonable.
I don't care which way we do it. Either way, we're gonna have to explain it, so.
Any of the other members have strong feelings? I mean, I tend to favor budgeting for costs. If we know what it's gonna be, do the budget and do it right, as close as you can get.
Right.
Okay,
It does mean a more nuanced explanation every year on why we're required to change, but I'm not sure people actually are paying that close of attention to the line items here. I mean, if there's a reasonable explanation as we go through.
I'm just thinking somebody, when they look through the budget and they get the budget, you know, they scan through the percent increase column and they'll 86%, somebody's gonna hit somebody's eye. when they
Yep.
do it, you know, and that's it. As long as
Yeah,
we
but
have. an
again, you know,
explanation,
you have explanatory notes you can include and
Yeah, as long as we have the notes, that's fine.
I'm okay either way.
yeah, I'd say leave
I
it.
think it's worth setting up a separate fund for it. It's too small of a dollar amount.
okay. I have no heartburn either way. So you had some questions about these lines and where they were over and where they weren't. So I think I don't think I changed the numbers. I think I added the explanations to, you know, what they actually were. So hopefully that makes more sense to you all as a group. I will say that right now, the total increase in the cost of the transfer station, you know, is about 10%, which is not insignificant at all. But a lot of that is, or a percentage of that is wage. And a percentage of that is the contractual obligations and the, you know, kind of amount of stuff, you know, we're hauling away. I mean, one of the things we found is that compared to say 3 years ago, I think you all realize with the advent of Amazon that we are throwing away an enormous amount more cardboard than we have in the past. And, you know, that's a pretty significant cost adder to the town.
Line 569. Row 569, hazardous waste. So we had expenses in 2021. Nothing got budgeted for 21, 22. We don't have any year-to-date expenses. So why are we putting a dollar amount in for this year? I don't understand that. And then it says 0% increase, so it wouldn't be a 0.
Yeah, your comments seem to be off by a row also there. You may need to
Yeah.
look at that, Eric.
Yep. I think that's the problem. That represents our Mid-Nerock fees so we're part of Mid-Nerock, which is a kind of hazardous waste consortium. We're one of about 15 towns that participate in it. And it does two things. One, it allows Andover residents to bring hazardous waste to a hazardous waste facility. And we pay our share of that. And the second thing, and that's based on our population, you know, what they charge us for that. And then the second thing is that organization negotiates all the costs for a lot of the hazardous waste pickup and removal contracts. So these go out to RFP basically every year. And we don't have to do that ourselves. And we're part of a bigger buying organization. So that's basically our cost for that.
So this is like an administration fee then.
Well, it's both the administration, so that covers both the administration fee and also the cost, the portion, how would I say it? So if you're an Andover resident and you bring hazardous waste to the facility, you don't get charged directly, and the town doesn't get charged for the cost of that hazardous waste. That is built into that fee. So this is the fee for the cost of running Mid-Nerock, essentially.
Oh, is this a once a year bill?
Yes,
So we
Okay.
didn't budget for it last year then? 21-22 budget this year. I mean, this fiscal year, we have nothing in the budget for it.
doesn't look like we budgeted for it. Yep,
And you have nothing expended either.
Right, so,
Is it in a different line maybe last year?
it's possible. I don't know where that is, because I think,
I would find it hard that we would have missed it if there was an expense from the previous fiscal year. Do you know what I mean?
Right, maybe it sounds like something we had broken out.
Right,
right. I can review that.
only because it's not a 0% increase. It's just misleading.
Right, so, and just so that you know, part of the increase in fees for Mid-Nerock this year is the fact that a lot of our hazardous waste was shipped to the state of Georgia. And Mid-Nerock ended up settling with the state of Georgia because the contractor that handled our waste basically abandoned an enormous amount of hazardous waste in a warehouse and went out of business. And so Georgia basically turned around and sued every single entity that had used them because they couldn't prove whose stuff was in what barrel. So we didn't end up having to really pay them any money, but Mid-Nerock chewed up some legal fees trying to work it all out with the state of Georgia. So they had a rainy day fund, but they shot most of the rainy day fund dealing with legal issues last year. So part of the increase is just to replenish that rainy day fund. So they have enough of an operating account. Questions on that?
Comments. Right.
Okay, we did take the contract planner portion and put that into the legal and professional line item. You made the decision to do that last time, so that's still there.
Wait. Your comments say. Incorporates use of planner, okay. All right,
Yep. Okay, we talked about this one. We finally got the contract. I'm asking the Board of Selectmen for permission to sign this contract. The reason I'm asking them is the contract goes from basically January 1st of this year, because we hadn't signed a new spring contract and include next fiscal year too. So I don't feel comfortable signing it because that's assuming a raise that we're budgeting for, but we don't necessarily, we don't have an actual budget yet. Does anybody know what I'm,
no,
You
I'm
know what
not
I'm saying?
following you. So
Okay.
this building department is a shared service, right?
so this is a shared
We
service.
have a contract,
So
my
this is gonna
question-
go to 105 also. This is gonna be renamed 105, so it's obvious. And it's gonna be shared service. We're gonna change it to shared service building department. Right?
So in the new contract, does that include an increase?
So the new contract increases the total hours individual from 5 to 7, which
Right,
the Board of Selectmen approved. And Bolton has said their employees will get a 3% wage. And since that applies to the person that's performing the duties, the contract assumes that.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I was just trying to figure out who's dictating the increase. It should be on the contract side. Okay.
Correct. Salary zoning agent. It's reflected in that. This line right here, RAM educational expenses. This number came down from what it was before a little bit. They finally made a final decision to send it to referendum. And this includes the $8,000 of excess from the year before, which they're legally obligated to give back to the town. They did not choose to give back any of the 2% of the surplus from last year that they had. They chose to spend that internally, just so that you know.
Eric, quick question on that. Do you know the total of what the 2% would be? I'm gonna do some math too. I feel like I don't know. I'll do the math. It's 2% of their total approved budget from last year, right?
Yeah, it would be percent of $5.19 million. So
Right,
it's a pretty
but,
significant chunk of money.
right. But the 2% of the whole overall budget, right, between the 3 towns?
Correct.
So the number that, the number that the public really needs to know that RAM is still keeping is a big significant number. I heard it, I meant to write it down. But so they're starting their year, or I think they're using that to fund something with the fields, but they are giving back the 8,000 and then keeping the 2% of the over 30 million. So,
Correct.
okay,
Correct.
thank you.
So yeah, it's a big, if they gave the whole thing back to Andover, it would lower our costs by about $100,000.
Absolutely. I
So
mean,
it's a
they
big
are
chunk.
gonna use it to, fund some, I think, field items and capital items. But another reason that, the public needs to know that they're starting the year off with that, I want to say 600,000. I just don't have a calculator in front of me right now. I mean, I can do it, but it's a big chunk.
Yep.
Thanks.
Oh, okay, line number 692, library operations. You asked us to back out the cost of the ARP grant. When we back off the cost of the ARP grant, you can see they've gotten both halves of their allotment at this point. So they're basically 100% expended on their budget for library operations. Does that make sense?
So, and this is a story that we have not ever set up the accounting for grants the way we should on our budget side, because obviously it says ARP grant, there were eligible things you could spend. Those expenses, should be coming out of that grant money, not out of the town operating budget, so to speak. I'm
Correct.
okay with it showing here, because this $26,000 includes the expenses that they paid that they really were using the grant money for, correct?
No. So this $26,000. So the library is one of those entities that the town, they maintain their own internal budget and checking account. The town pays them biannually, half of their operations budget. And then they have to maintain all their expenses out of that. And then they provide.
So this year-to-date expense of $26,200, which is 100% of their budget,
Right.
does not include any of the expenses that they bought with the grant money.
Correct.
So they're over their operation budget.
No, their operation budget
For this
is,
year,
was,
this fiscal.
no, they've spent 100% of their budget.
Well, yeah, but we have a few months to go, so obviously they're gonna have to go over. right?
No, because that's what you're not, so we make 2 payments to the library.
We
We make
spent, we
one
gave
in
them
July
money, but they haven't
and we
spent
give
it
them
yet.
one in January. So they have all the money they're getting from the town,
But they
right?
never spend over their budget then.
Well,
Well, we're
Unless
not
the
gonna see their
taxes
book.
itself.
We're not gonna know that.
Right,
Yeah.
well, they have
We-
to turn over their books every year because their books get audited also. So it's not like they're hiding anything.
Okay.
The reason, part of the reason that's done is because they also fundraise. And they also raise a lot of money that's not coming from taxation, that they
Right.
also spend on library expenses. So, and Linda can probably give you chapter.
Well,
and
as far
verse
as the
on her-
town's concerned, they will never go over their operating budget because it's a fixed budget, period, for what the town puts in.
Right,
Anything they pay beyond that, they have to fundraise themselves. Okay, got
right.
it.
And the only thing that would not be part of that is if like significant ongoing maintenance expenses that were paid for out of the town building maintenance fund, like potentially the work to the chimney on the library, that would not come out of the operations budget. That would come out of the town-wide building maintenance fund. But normal routine stuff is library operations and paid for by them.
Okay,
Okay?
Yep.
So we also had been discussing where, so the Board of Selectmen had taken money out of the Public Works Vehicle Maintenance Fund. And the question was, what did they do with it? This is what they did with it. They added it to Public Works Capital Expenditure and added a new column. That's what the board elected to do because they felt that was a capital expense. I actually kind of forgot they did that. I had to go back and do a bunch of research to figure out, where that was. So that was the $30,000 difference in the Public Works vehicle maintenance between what the department requested and what the Board of Finance or the Board of Selectmen approved. And that's represented here. And you can choose to keep that or modify that or do whatever you want, but that's the explanation for it.
No strong feelings here, one way or the other. It works. It's fine.
Okay, and then, the last thing is, kind of what we do. Do we keep the contingency at 75,000 or do we drop it back down to 50,000, which is closer to what we've ordinarily budgeted for that? But, my concern has always been that $50,000, on a budget the size of ours is a really low percentage. And being accurate within that percentage is pretty difficult in an ordinary year. But that's just me.
may not have a choice about cutting that back depending on where this comes out. Because right now the town's at a 12% increase overall in the budget.
So that is everything in the budget. When we go to the revenue column, the only thing I want to talk about is that when we looked at this last fall, we had seen a big year-over-year increase in the fees for the town clerk from 1920 to 2021. And then the amount that we had gotten in so far early in the year was huge. We were averaging more than 9,000 a month in town clerk fees. Most of that was conveyance fees on a real estate. However, lately, the last couple of 3 months, that has dropped like a rock. So I think, if you just summed the trend 4 months ago, that might have been a reasonable number, but considering the interest rates are probably going up, and all the uncertainty, I think that's probably quite a high number in reality. And we ought to knock that down to, somewhere around 90,000 is probably a more realistic number.
But right
There's
now,
really probably two components of that, Eric, right? Number of transactions, and then these fees are based on the value of the home sold, correct?
Exactly.
So the value of the home sold is not likely to drop. The question, I think, is the churn.
Correct.
so year to date, I updated my spreadsheet with the year-to-date numbers from the last revenue report that we got. So year-to-date, we've only collected $68,900 for this year. So 105 seems to be a stretch for next year.
Right. Whereas 4 months ago, we'd collected almost that much already. So lately, we've collected very little. There is a seasonality to it. It should pick up again, but I don't think we're not going to get anywhere near here. I
Only
think we'll get-
collected in 2021, $80,000.
Right, 2021, we collected $80,000. 21, 22, we were on track to collect a lot more than that, but now we're not. So it's dropped off really dramatically now.
Do you have a number in mind that you think is more feasible, Eric?
I mean, I think the number's got to be somewhere between 80 and 90,000. But what that should be exactly, 80,000 is probably more conservative because that's probably closer to the year before. Because there's definitely, you're right, that the average cost of a home has gone up pretty dramatically, but I can't tell you how many homes are going to sell.
What's the average number of homes sold per year? Do you know that?
I don't know that.
It'd be real easy to see it dropping 20-25%, but the value's also gone up probably 15%.
Right.
You take that down 10-12%, you're at about 90K. Doesn't seem unreasonable to me. 105,000 seems a little unreasonable based on what we're
Yeah.
seeing.
Yep, me too. If you asked me 4 months ago, based on, where we're already in the year, I would have said that was what we would be looking at. But, we're definitely not at, the last few months, we sure as heck weren't bringing in $9,000 a month.
Can we put it at 85? I mean, kind of split the difference? I don't know.
I'm certainly fine with 85. I think it's probably more realistic than 105. I can't really tell you where home sales are going next year. Interest rates are going up. That should decrease home sales. Does that affect the cost also? I don't know.
Or, people are rushing now, to get out there before they increase further. So you never know. I mean, so that's why we should maybe do something that's Midland or something. I know for my own family members that are trying to buy houses before the rates go up. So
Right.
that's all.
I mean, yeah, we may have a little flush for the remainder of this fiscal year, but it may, depending on where interest rates go. And the Fed's going to increase rates again. They already said that they didn't
Right.
increase enough. So
Right.
we know we're going to get hit with a series of rate increases over the next 12 months.
Which I would think would depress home sales, but,
As people's incomes keep going up, they can afford to pay for more.
are you comfortable with budgeting 85 for that?
I'm okay with 85. Anybody have disagreement with that number?
No, I think 85 is good.
He also,
All right,
Can we
so,
go to the top of the revenue thing and look at this interest in taxes? Can we just run through these numbers really quickly? You're proposing
Oh.
61,000. And
Right,
the year-to-date numbers I have that we've collected so far is 33,700.
Mm. So I generated that number with
That's
12,
just the revenue report, so.
right. Yeah, again, there's a seasonality to that. When I looked at those numbers, I set them to what the last 12 months, 12 continuous months of collection were last year.
I mean, in 2021, we collected 61,000. This year, we're not at that pace of that. For 21, 22. That's my question. So I don't know the answer to this.
Yeah,
In prior year's taxes. You know. I don't know if 155 is too high. We've collected 127.7 so far. I don't have the data in front of me of how what's the backlog on the prior year taxes. But we had a big spring, you know, so we collected a lot in 2021 and 58. So it seems like if we keep going, 155 should be close. But I'm just saying, last year we only budgeted 100, but we're above that, so we've gotten more than what we budgeted for. So
right. You know, again, when I set those numbers, I just took from the tax collector, you know, what was the closest 12 months to the current fiscal year. You know, when I collected that data and said, okay, what is it? What did we collect in one 12-month period for interest, for liens, and for prior year fees?
and you know, we should drop into this revenue spreadsheet. We should put a year-to-date actual column through the same date as we have for year-to-date actual for expenses for the public to see. You know, we put with the proposed budget, but we didn't put where we are year-to-date. And we should have that in there. We have it for all the other years, what we collected and what we got. So I don't know if we're going to get $61,000 worth of interest if we're only at 33,700 right now. Next year. And the year before that, we collected actual 61,000. So I can see. So we collected 61.6 in 2021 against a budget of 40,000. So we're over. No, 2021 against a budget of 33. So we're over. Then we budgeted 40. And we haven't made our budget yet, but we're not done with the year. Well, this is interest on delinquent taxes, so it depends on, as long as people pay their bills, we won't have a lot of interest. But if we have a lot of backlog of overdue taxes, we will have interest because it accrues at a pretty good rate. Eight months. And those numbers that I have in there are through February. I do not include March.
I mean, obviously, we did have better numbers at the end of this month because this is a collection month. You know,
So you take that 33.7 and annualize it, that would come out to $51,000. It's only 10,000 difference. But I don't know if it runs that way. I don't know how much comes in every month.
so what information do you want back from me?
Well, does everyone agree on the board that we should have the actual numbers to match the actual year-to-date expenses like we have on the front page? I mean, we're presenting the budget, the expenditure side with year-to-date numbers through April 1st. We should put the revenue. It's the other half of the budget. They go together.
Okay,
I mean, it's not a bad idea. The only thing is if with any kind of seasonality or variability month to month, it's just more explanation we have to make. And, you know, if we're making a significant variance, maybe that, you know, that probably makes sense. I don't, more information is better than not enough. I don't know that, you know, the public is really gonna look at that level of detail. They might.
Well, for me, I think it's valuable because for me to look at what we're going to budget for, is it reasonable? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
You
I
know,
mean,
like we know
we
town
have
clerk's
a-
105, we know we're not going to make that number. We all agreed to 85. Transfer station. I know we have 44 in there, but does that have the increased fee in there or not? In that
yes,
number?
that's assuming we issue the same number of stickers as last year.
Okay.
We increase the fee.
And then building. We put 75,000.
So that was two things. One, overall building is up. That's again also very periodic, like we're in a slump now, but we expect to see a lot more building in the next couple of months. And the second thing is we increased the fees pretty dramatically, you know, last year, which is why if you, you know, look at, we're already, I think we've already collected more than 55,000 so far this year.
This year, 67,000 so far. Year to date through February.
Yeah, include it, right, that including the land use department, yes.
So another thing in my notes, I was looking here. We're missing one of the revenue accounts that I've seen that we've gotten on the revenue report consistently. The municipal revenue sharing. $20,219. It's account 120-0100-227. It's not the same account as the municipal online 21. It's a different account number. It's on the revenue report, and that's why I'm asking.
You got me.
We have a municipal revenue sharing that comes in every year at 20,219. It's in our budget. It's on our budget report now. In our revenue. It is called MRSA Municipal Revenue Sharing. We adopted a budget last year of $20,219. Year-to-date revenue is $3,179. So my question is this something we get every year? And how does it come in?
I can't answer that right now. I can get back to you.
Because that's on my notes.
Diane,
Yeah,
it's Maria. Can you hear me?
yes, I can.
I think that comes through when we were talking earlier in that meeting from the state that we get those direct deposits. I think it comes through there. I can double check tomorrow through my emails if it's like a once a year or how we get it, but that does sound familiar. I remember looking at something like that.
Because we have that municipal stabilization grant that we get every year. That's the $43,000 number. And then we have this other municipal sharing. And
The
I think
other
that
one
comes
municipal-
every year.
yeah.
So
Road
we just-
21
Okay, I
is
can look
municipal.
tomorrow.
If you expand the descriptions, Road 21 is municipal or municipal stabilization or something. I wonder if
Yeah.
that's it.
No, it's not. It's not the same account number. So the account number that I have is exactly the same account number, but instead of zeros in the second set of numbers, it's 0-100. So it's 10. I don't know why there's a 2 in front of these, because there's not a 2 on the report. The report, the account number says 100-20-0100-227. And this is.
Okay, yeah, I'll check in
FRSA
my
municipal
email
revenue
tomorrow.
sharing.
Yeah, it bears checking.
So we should add that back to that.
I know there was one, Sherry and I reviewed, because the state finally put out a list of the funds we were getting. And there is one that's not coming through. I have
We've
to
gotten
figure
some
out,
money, so maybe it's not getting funded at the amount that we budgeted for, because we budgeted for this last year.
well, no, there's one that we've been getting that we're not going to get. And I want to say it was in the $20,000 range, but I'm gonna have to review that and get back to you.
All right, yeah, just
Um,
clarity on that.
Yep.
And then the rentals, we can increase the budget item on that to include the $7,500 from the field, unless we're gonna give them a rate, unless we're gonna charge them more. this
So
fiscal
I increased that to 8,000.
Mhm.
Don't know what the other things we get rental fees for. I can't actually figure out anything else that we rent. So I
Well,
increased that to 8,000,
Pool-
which is I
Pool pays
suspect.
rent.
Okay.
So
Okay,
I've
so
got-
then you could
Yeah,
probably increase that to, 9,000 to cover cool and the athletic field.
okay.
And I don't know what the Board of Selectmen is gonna want to charge FC North for rental of the athletic field. That's up to them. My suggestion has been to charge them half the cost of field maintenance. But whether they decide to charge them all of it or a part of it, I don't know. No decision has been made.
Well,
If
we
you
should,
wanna
any
set that-
cost increase we have, we should be passing on to them, right? So.
That would be my suggestion.
yeah.
So we can set that to 9,000 and account for cool. Thank you, Marina. So that's what that works out to. When you put all those collectively together, you run up a total budget increase of about 5.4%.
So when we clean up this spreadsheet, Eric, can you, on the first tab, at the very beginning, I think it's row 61.
Of this page
No,
or
no,
the
on the
budget
first
page?
tab, the first tab, yeah, budget, row 61. Is it, no, not 61. Hold on. Jesus Christ. I lost it. Oh, no, I'm in the wrong spreadsheet. That's why. I have too many open. Town budget.
What account are you looking at, Diane? looking for?
No, I just want him to clean this up. So it's a cleanup item on the spreadsheet. Hold on. Get there. Row 36, in the department totals things, you have a header in the middle that says department totals.
I think they
That's
do
correct.
that so it'll like print out properly. It is kind of annoying, but
Well, no, you can repeat header rows on Excel. You don't have to have that in there.
So
It's not-
what is it that you want to do?
Well, 36, I don't know why that header is in there.
so row 4 and row 36 both say department totals, and it's thing is just because a convenience thing when you were probably printing it at, for on paper. The problem with repeating the headers, if you did this one, it would repeat on every page, and you really don't want that. You'd have to manage it. So I'm guessing that's why it's done that way. I don't really look at the printed copy, so I don't really. It's probably not.
If you want, if you want that out, we can knock it out. Is that what you want out?
Yeah, just so the sheet's formatted correctly. I just want the sheet to be nicely formatted and, the unused, the useless lines eliminated, clean it up so it looks nice.
Again, I think it was probably there for the purposes of printing the hard copies that go to the public during the meeting, et cetera. I don't think it's necessary, but I'm sure that's what it was there for.
You could tell Excel to print header rows on every page.
No, the problem is if you printed that, it would print that budget, it would print the department budgets on every page, and you don't want them at every page because it only applies to the first two. But I don't really think it's necessary. I think it's fine to remove it.
Okay, it's gone now. So now, given that that's where we're in the budget, is that what you all collectively want to put to the public at the next meeting? Because at this meeting, you're going to have to decide whatever budget you want to put forward to the public hearing.
Well, one obvious thing to look at was the line item you pointed out, the actuarial services that the legal support. Sorry for the
Sure, the assessors.
for the assessors. I said actuarial.
Yep,
Assessors legal counsel line 122. Yeah.
yep.
So I mean, that one seems pretty clear to me that based on what you've said, if there doesn't seem to be the likelihood of more than one or two actions against the town, and we budgeted for 3 to 4, then let's cut that in half. I don't see any reason to leave it at 6K.
Okay.
Does anybody disagree with that or have any other idea?
Okay, so when are we going to go through this budget and talk about what cuts we need to make or want to make before the annual?
Right
budget?
now. This is it.
Well, okay, then I want to make a motion to make a change to the school budget.
You can't do that now. That can't happen till after the process, later in the process.
Well, that's what I just asked. When are we going to talk about making changes? Are we going to get the public feedback from our meeting next week, then regroup and make it and talk about changes before it goes to the public?
The
And
school
it's not-
budget, we can't. We can make whatever changes we want to this budget before it goes to the public hearing.
But when can we make changes to the school budget?
Not until at least after the public hearing.
So I will tell you flat out that, there are different legal opinions on that as to when, based on the ruling in the charter. You know, if you want to make changes to the school budget prior to the townwide budget meeting, I would suggest you ask the town's attorney for a legal opinion on that straight out.
I think we're gonna have to do that based on the things that I've read. I also got an email today from Jerry Creme quoting the charter, and I haven't really even had time to read it. I'll forward it to you guys. But I do think that the charter is written a little less clearly than it could be about this matter. But it does seem pretty clear that
The
well,
budget that we send to the annual town meeting is the budget that the Board of Finance approves, and the budget can change the total amount of the school budget. Not asking for a line item change, just the total amount.
right. No, that's clear. We can't do any line item changes.
So I'm not telling you legally you can or you can't. I'm saying if that is your intention, then we ask Dennis O'Brien for a written legal opinion to that effect. Because I'm not going to tell you that you can or you can't, because I think the charter is pretty vague. You know, and orally, the town's attorney last year told us one thing, and the Board of Ed's attorney certainly does not feel that does not agree with that. So, you know, if you're going to consider that, then you need to get the town attorney's legal opinion on that.
Yeah, my personal
certainly
view is we leave it alone right now to you know, reading in the section 802 of the charter right here. It says, the agencies are gonna submit their estimates, blah, 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 the duties of the Board of Finance. The Board of Finance shall review all budget estimates with the heads of all town supported departments, offices, agencies upon completion of the review and not later than 60 days prior to the end of the fiscal year. The Board of Finance shall hold a public hearing as provided for in section 802C of the charter on the proposed budget. In preparing the proposed budget, the Board of Finance may add to, delete from, or eliminate requests made by the various departments, offices, and agencies, except that the board may only comment and make recommendations on the budget requests of the local Board of Education. Now, that's kind of vague, but it doesn't say that we can change that budget request. The Board of Finance shall include in the budget the estimated budget request of the regional school district number 8.
I thought we made a change to the school budget before it went to the town meeting last year.
I think that we did. But again, there's two different spots here. What I was just stating was the proposed budget to go before the town hearing. So.
That's all I was gonna mention, because we're gonna have the hearing, correct? So maybe we can't make any changes before the hearing to the Board of Ed budget?
That's pretty clear.
You guys definitely made changes before it went to the first public meeting.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about the hearing next week. I'm talking about the public meeting. The
Right.
final budget that we as a board say, this is the budget we're submitting.
Yeah,
So then it's further down, it says the Board of Finance shall hold at least one public hearing on the budget at which any taxpayer elector may have the opportunity to be heard. Blah, blah, blah. The Board of Finance may review the budget request with the head of each department, board, agency, and commission, including the local Board of Education. Subsequent to such hearing and review, the Board of Finance shall prepare a final budget that incorporates any recommended changes to be presented to the annual town budget meeting, which shall be in the same format and contain the same information as is provided for in section 802, blah, blah. To me, what that says is the Board of Finance shall prepare a final budget that incorporates any recommended changes, any recommendations, including, you know, I got to say, I think that's including the school budget. It's hard for me to think that any recommended changes doesn't include the school line item.
So
So
we can
it
change it
could-
before it goes to the town meeting.
It's not as clear as it could be, Because I think it should say, including a school budget line item, to clarify that that is not to be done before the hearing, but could be done after the hearing, if that wasn't the intent of the charter, which it seems to me that it is.
I'm just talking about not the meeting, not our meeting next week for the public. I'm just talking about the annual town budget.
Before the town meeting, yeah.
before
I
the
think
town.
it seems to be fairly clear to me, I'm not an attorney, but it seems to be fairly clear to me, and I've read a lot of contracts, but that we cannot make changes to the proposed school budget prior to the hearing. But it seems to imply, not quite as clearly, that we can make changes to,
We are still
um,
charged with putting forth a final budget.
the final budget that goes before the town meeting, yes.
And we have control over that dollar amount, total dollar amount.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as we can make changes between those two meetings, that's fine.
That would be my reading of the charter. But I think that Eric is right. Before we would take such action, we need to get an opinion of the attorney.
Well, how do you want to do that, Eric?
If that's something you're contemplating, I will ask the town's attorney for a legal opinion regarding that.
Okay.
And I will ask for it in writing.
I think it would be appropriate, and I think we may as well do it now so that we know kind of where we are. I mean, if the reading isn't what I've proposed that it is, then, we need to understand that. So we just know where we stand. And then it goes to town meeting, and then anybody can propose a change, right?
Understood.
The chance of this budget passing first round is pretty slim, so I know we're gonna be going back and doing something, but there is one reduction I would like to make on the school budget before annual town meeting. Which I think we as a board should consider. I will explain my logic to you guys and then we can vote on it.
We as a board should consider what, Diane? It wasn't clear to me.
What my logic is for the change. For the one change I want to make.
Okay. Are you talking about for the school budget?
Yeah,
Okay. Well, let's maybe wait till we get there and we can discuss. Go ahead, Joanne.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'm reverting back to Eric's original question, whether we were, now that we've gone through this, and pretty much I feel like all of our meetings have just been kind of cleaning it up so that we could have a final version, without really having comments on whether we think we should cut or not. I don't know what everyone thinks. I get that. We definitely want to hear the public, get their input. I think I know which way a lot of people are going to be talking about it, but so all of these meetings so far have been cleaning it up and getting questions answered, getting the right totals and all that kind of thing. And so I guess I'd want to see that bottom revenue thing again, where it shows the mill rate and what the percentage, that if we thought we were comfortable with just putting this out to the public, so us not taking any action at all besides cleaning it up and getting the totals right.
Well, personally, I think we ought to.
It's
Go on, sir. Go ahead, Joanne.
5.4. Sorry.
What were you saying? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I just wanted to see like the final increase. Did we make the changes, or are we going to wait to see Eric's version when we get it back again?
Well, I think we should make any changes we think should clearly be made. And I agree with reducing the revenue line that we had,
Right.
changing that out. I would also suggest that we change those the legal services for the Board of Assessor. Just because it's an obvious one that Eric pointed out, let's not put it in there if it's pretty clear that it can be reduced without much risk. I don't know that we should make drastic changes unless the board's in clear agreement on something in particular. I think it behooves us to go through the town hearing process before we go through the budget hearing meeting before we actually make significant changes. But if it's I think we should just budget, if we really think something ought to be increased or something ought to be reduced, let's do that. Let's do it now.
So, no, that's what I was getting to. I don't really, again, I'm the type that I have to kind of look at it, get some thoughts formulated, and we're just doing this now, so, but I know our meeting's next week. So it's gonna take so I'm in agreement. I appreciate getting the public's input as well. So we're saying what we have here. Do we have a total on, sorry, because I can't read it as good as you guys can. My screen is so far away.
Yeah, it's a
what would the
5.4% overall increase of
Increase
taxation
spending.
total.
Yeah,
The elementary school is,
oh, I know the schools part, like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
the
yeah.
overall increase in dollar amount would be, we're still at the 500,000, give or
yeah,
take?
526,701.
Okay. Thank you. Yep. Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any other opinions. I guess the hard work will come once we have the hearing, and then that little bit of time in between when we hear from people. I think, eventually a few things are gonna have to be cut. I do have opinions, but I agree with you. I'm fine with, if this is what we want to do when it's, send it to the hearing, and the hearing's gonna be virtual and
Yeah,
next week.
I mean, I would propose that we make any changes that, we're at a point that I think if any board member wants to make a suggested change to these items, I don't think we want to get too aggressive before we have the public hearing, frankly. But I would like to see that, any obvious changes made. And I think we did one with the revenue line item. I think we should also do the one with the legal support for the assessor's office. Keep forgetting what the heck that account is called.
So we changed the revenue line item that you were talking about for, we just made the change to the rental income. We
Yeah,
made the change to the town clerk fees. We reduced that 20,000. Those were the only two that it seemed like you had clear agreement on. If there were
Right, I
other
mean,
things,
yeah.
And we have to
Well,
find out if we're gonna get that $20,000, that other revenue sharing thing, or if that's going away.
Yeah, well, that's not good. We're not gonna have that answer tonight, right?
Right,
So Eric,
right.
what I would suggest on the expense tab, the budget tab,
Okay.
row 122, that's the one we were just talking about.
Yep.
I would suggest we reduce that to $3,000. And again, we don't necessarily, I think, have a motion here, but I would open it up for discussion. I would suggest we make any suggested changes that everyone's comfortable with, and then we could just vote on it at the end, unless there's some disagreement. Then somebody should make a motion, do a formal motion on each line item if we have clear disagreement on it.
Mark, I agree with you. I think the 6,000 should go down to 3,000.
I agree
Anybody
too.
have a different opinion?
No, I'm good with
Agree.
that.
I mean, it seems like low hanging fruit to me, so let's take it.
okay,
Is there anything else? And I think now is fine to any particular line items. If maybe wants to just say, look, I think this one can be trimmed or added to, and here's a reason. And I think if there's anything clear now, I would, especially if you think it's likely to be a unanimous type vote or something close to it. I personally don't see anything else in here that I would, cut at this point or add to.
I
Oh, we
think
can.
until we get public feedback,
For more feedback. Yeah.
to do that. Mike, I have a question on timing. So next week is our public meeting to get feedback on this budget. So if we need to make changes and update this spreadsheet, when are we going to do that between now and the town meeting?
Well, the first
So-
opportunity would be, we actually have a scheduled budget workshop meeting at 7 o'clock following the hearing. So I sent an email earlier.
Okay, okay.
Amanda had sent around an agenda having with both meetings, and I was a little hesitant to have the special workshop meeting afterwards. Eric pointed out that, well, it gives us the opportunity, if we so choose, to make some immediate adjustments after that town meeting. And if we decide we're not ready to do that, or it's just going to take a lot more consideration, then we don't have to have that. We just skip that agenda item and have the meeting over quickly. So we really don't have to go into a full-blown meeting if there's nothing really to be discussed and analyzed at that time. So that's one option. We probably will need to, we have the following Wednesday, the 20th.
I have a meeting scheduled there. I think our meeting's ended.
Yeah, so I don't think we have a meeting scheduled on the 20th. We have a regularly scheduled meeting on the 27th.
Right. Which is a little late, right, to do it because the budget meeting's the 3rd.
Well, the
Budget
budget
meeting
meeting
is
is probably
the
the 4th.
4th, I think.
Presumably it will be the 4th.
Yeah,
Not a Tuesday, it's a Wednesday, the 4th.
yeah. It's Wednesday, the 4th.
Reason
And the
that-
reason,
Sorry, I lost computer again. I'm back on my other. I thought the whole reason we chose the 13th was so that we weren't rushed. So I thought we were giving
Yes, I
ourselves,
just want to have opportunity to talk about the budget before. we
yes, that's what I mean.
finalize
Yeah, I feel like
what's going to the annual town meeting, so.
So
I
again,
agree.
I
Yeah,
think immediately following the budget hearing is an
Well, that's good.
opportunity.
that's
And then
good.
we probably need to schedule a special meeting on the 20th.
Yes,
It's gonna be a little
definitely.
tricky for me. But, and then we have our regularly monthly meeting scheduled on the 27th. So there's 3 potential meetings just on those Wednesdays between the hearing, same night of the hearing, there would be one. The following, the 20th would be another, which we'd have to schedule because it's not on the schedule right now. And then the 27th is our regular meeting. So those would be our 3 opportunities to come to agreement on the final budget to be presented to the town at the town budget meeting on the 4th.
I would have to check on the 27th, Mark. And the reason is that's pretty close to, I forget the total number of days people technically need to have the mailer in hand before the budget meeting. I want to say it's 5 days. So it is possible if we were all ready to go and there were minor last changes, we could get that out on the 28th and meet our legal requirements. But it would be pretty close.
What's in the mailer that we would need to be sure of? I mean, why would we just send the mailer out anyway?
Isn't the mailer just the notice that there's an annual town budget meeting on this date and this
Yeah.
time?
Yeah, I forget when,
There, right?
we are required to post prior to the meeting. I would have to review the charter and find out when we have to have a drop dead budget. We have to have the budget posted and we have to have it available for the public to review in the town clerk's office prior to. But I don't
Right.
know the number of days that.
Yeah, I don't think it's stated in the charter, but there might be just it might have to do with the agenda being there up X amount of days, like a standard meeting. Yeah, I don't see anything about days that needs to be posted. Just a quick look.
It may be in the annual meeting section on the charter.
That's how I'm looking.
So I'm also going to review the timeline because I worked that out with the town clerk to make sure.
Process explanation? No, that's not it. Where is
Where
it?
did it go?
I don't think it has a specification on when it needs to be posted.
Yeah, okay, here we go. So in my notes, I had the Board of Finance would have to vote to send the budget to town meeting on the 26th, so mailers could go out at that time.
Right, but again, I don't really know what the mailer has to do with it. I mean, wouldn't we just send it out anyway? Like Diane said, there's nothing that's gonna change on the mailer if we know we're gonna hold the town budget meeting on the 4th.
I agree with that too.
Right,
to-
but you know, it seems to me that mailer has the bottom line budget in it too.
I just thought it was a notice of a public meeting. It was just a basic, I can't remember. I can't speak. Can't remember what happened yesterday.
It's not one of those just one sentence things. Be aware that on such and such a date, the town, all eligible electors of the town are called to this meeting. There's actual budget stuff on there. I don't remember that.
I don't want to swear to it. I mean, I know when I worked it out, the town
I think
clerk
it
and I
has
worked
budget
it
stuff
out.
in there, but I'm not sure if it says that the budget is posted on the town website and available for review. It may say that.
I don't know. I mean, it's very possible you could do it on the 27th and be legal, but, I don't want to tell you right now that you can or you can't. Because I would have to review that with the town clerk and the town's attorney to make sure that that's the case.
Okay, so either way, if that is the case, we, for some reason, we need to do it prior to the 27th, and that gives us the 13th. We have our hearing and then a subsequent budget meeting. We would have the 20th if we choose to add a special budget meeting then.
And there's other days. We don't, I mean, if we have to, we can just pick another day to do a special meeting.
There is, yeah.
So,
So the 16th is an option for me. That is, holiday weekend. I'm fine with Saturday, the 16th. And we don't have to decide now. We can call a special meeting, on the 13th if we think we need it. I'm out of town the weekend of the 20th to the 25th. I really won't be available. But
I think part of our thing after our meeting on the 13th, and we go into our regular meeting, we should then talk about the next date and just get it booked. Is that okay to book it at that point in time? Because then we'll know how many changes, based on the feedback, we'll know how much work we have to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I like that. Yep. I think we'll get a good feel to how much work we're gonna have to do. So,
Okay, so you're not gonna set a special meeting on the 20th today. You're gonna wait till the public budget meeting on the 13th and then make a decision whether you want to meet on the 20th. Is that correct?
Well, because Mark is not here for the 20th for a special meeting.
Right.
so-
I'm just asking. I'm not criticizing. I'm just making sure that I got it right. Because we won't post a special meeting if you're not actually deciding that here.
I can pick one now, or we can wait till the 13th. I don't care. It's what works out for everybody.
I would be tempted to post to schedule the meeting, have that in our pocket. And, I might be able to attend for part of it or something, but it's going to be tough for me. And then
So why not?
we can
the
always
18th
cancel
or
it.
19th? Can we do, does anybody have availability for special meeting, 18th, 19th, the 21st, or the 18th, 19th? Or the
that
15th?
Easter weekend, I gotta,
That's
Yeah,
after
that's
Easter. That's
Easter
Monday and
weekend.
Tuesday after Easter. That's after Easter. Monday, the 18th, Tuesday, the 19th.
Either one is fine for me.
Or
Wait a
we
minute.
could.
18th is
Thursday.
also tax day for those of you who are procrastinators, so just be aware.
I just
Um,
have to write a check, so. I'm
Yeah, same here. I already did mine online and that's the day the check's gonna, or the money's coming out of my account, but I've already done them.
So you're asking about Monday, the 18th, Tuesday, the 19th?
Or other options are the 14th or the 15th. So. or the
Okay,
16th.
well, the 14th or the 15th work for me. The 18th and 19th are bad for me.
Yeah, 14th, well, I prefer the 18th, 19th simply to have a little bit of time to review it, you know, with it, but that's.
I'm unavailable on the 15th. I could do the 14th or 16th.
16th, so,
I
wait a
still
minute,
have
which,
commitments. I could be available.
16th is
anytime.
Saturday? Wait a minute.
I don't know why we're.
We can always do a Saturday. If we want to.
Okay, I'm out of town the 15th, 16th, 17th.
That's pushing it. Again, I'm gonna be very flexible and be very available. I just want to make sure we have, you know, what we need, and then we have time to digest it so that we can be really productive at our meeting. You know, we're just gonna have the public hearing, then we're gonna have the 13th to discuss it, which I think we'll have a lot to discuss then. So I'm looking forward to next Wednesday. I think we'll have a better feel. I mean, I could be available. I think you said the Thursday is the 15th. I mean, sorry, the 14th or the Monday as well. I just want us to carefully pick our dates so that we like all have a chance to study everything and come ready to go. I'm saying we always do, but now we're really at that time. So that's my thought.
You know, if it has to be on a Monday or Tuesday, I can show up for, you know, and do it for quorum. It's just that I have my kids
Yeah.
those days. So it
Yeah.
makes it harder for me.
And yeah, I'd personally just schedule one for the 20th, you know, and if I can attend for part of it, I can. You know, I don't know that that's going to be our final one anyway. My guess is it'll go to the 27th unless there's legal reason we have to have it posted prior to then.
Well, then you just want to do the 20th then and just have it out there?
Yeah, I would.
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
Me too.
Me too.
Okay,
I'm
why don't
good.
you guys make a formal motion to
Yeah.
that effect?
Anybody would like to make a motion to add a special meeting on the 20th?
I'd make a motion to add a special meeting on the 20th
Via
At
Zoom at
7
7
p.m.?
PM.
at 7 PM.
Okay.
Zoom.
So I have a second. Louise is motioning to have a special meeting for the budget workshop on April 20th at 7 PM.
Second,
I'll second.
I think I got Kurt as a second. Thank you, Kurt. Any discussion that we haven't already had? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes, so we're scheduled that meeting. Thank you, guys. I also think we've made a couple of changes on the budget that Eric has shared. I think that we should probably have a formal vote on those changes or potentially add some more changes if anybody has any to bring up at this point. Anybody like to make a motion that we make the changes as indicated in the spreadsheet that Eric's got in front of us now?
Make the motion to approve the changes that Eric made tonight at our Board of Finance budget meeting workshop as presented in front of us right now.
Okay, anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, Louise, any further discussion?
So I do have one thing that I think is incorrect, but give me like 2 seconds to look at it. Yes. And that is line item 111 can be removed. That was a placeholder that was in there incorrectly. I don't know why it got added to Board of Finance. That was added under the Finance Department. That was not a Board of Finance expense.
Did that change the bottom line?
Yep,
Yeah.
decreased the
$2,000.
budget about $2,000, $2,200. So the other thing that you guys had
As
had
a,
kept,
if I interrupt you, Eric, as a procedural motion, then probably we still need to vote, or we could have the motion withdrawn before that change was made.
Can we just make a motion to make that change as well? Incorporate it into it?
No, you can't. Procedurally, when we're in the middle of one motion, you really have to vote on that motion.
Okay,
So what I would suggest is if we have additional changes, we should probably decline that motion if it's the feelings of the board to do so. And then if we need to make additional changes, we run another motion and vote.
I'll make a motion then to decline that. First
You can't, we don't make a
Oh.
negative motion, we just vote.
We just don't, okay.
Yeah, so if there's any further discussion, I'll call for a vote. Okay, a vote on the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed,
Aye.
say no.
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 Um,
Any abstentions? Okay, Linda, were you voting yes or no? Sorry.
I was voting for it to go ahead with the budget.
Well,
I'm
I
tired.
think we are, but I think we're just gonna back off on that because Eric wants to make an additional,
Oh,
suggest an
that's
additional
right.
change. So,
okay, so I do have two suggestions. The first was to get rid of line 111, because that was incorrect. The second thing is, you guys had debated under the Board of Finance whether you wanted to keep your legal budget or not. You have never used your legal budget. It used to be 5,000, it was reduced to 2,500, but it's been sitting there for years and you've never spent a dime. Do you want to retain that budget?
that's a good question. I would think if we were gonna need legal defense at any point, last year probably would have been it. Tough to say, or the one before, actually, when we just made the decision to, we made the budget for the governor's orders.
I think
So,
the history behind that was when the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen didn't get along and there was little battles.
right, and I think we decided to
don't have
keep
that
it
same
at least partially.
Situation anymore. So,
So Eric, the request that we just talked about earlier about getting an opinion from the town's attorney on the intention of the charter. Is that covered by retainer?
Yes.
So that would not be a separate, it would need to be a kind of a separate chargeable event for us to need that fund.
Yeah,
For
you
that
would,
like we're
it would have
at
to be-
Board of Finance. I mean,
it
Board
would
of
have to
Selectmen.
be something whereby either I or the Board of Selectmen was refusing you the opportunity to use the town's legal counsel for some reason. Which may or may not have happened in the past. I mean, I'm not saying under some previous administrations, there wasn't that concern.
I would feel more comfortable having it there still, but maybe reducing it down to 1,000, just so there's something there. Anyone agree or disagree?
It's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, do we really even have the authority to contact an attorney outside of the town administration and have them do work independently and authorize expenditures? I'm probably getting to some esoteric stuff.
I think the chances of us ever using that money in today's makeup of the boards, okay, I'm not gonna say about a future election or how things change, but it's pretty slim to nothing. We would have to be at odds with somebody. And we don't tend to work that way. We tend to work
Probably with the majority of the board
you know,
of selectmen, yeah.
What, nobody wants to kick off a turf war just for fun?
yeah. Yeah. And I just think every penny counts in this budget because it's, where it is right now. That's all. Every little bit helps.
It's not, it's de minimis in a way. I mean, every little bit does help, but I'm
Should we keep
Feel-
like
don't feel strongly either way.
I was gonna say that, should we keep just a placeholder? You said it's at 2,000, keep like 500 in there, just as, I don't know that
Yeah.
wouldn't even cover, but just as a token. Whatever, I'm kind
Well,
of neutral.
I
think-
feel like what
yeah,
we
I mean,
have in there now is the token.
Yeah, I mean, 2,500, I think it gets you a lot in legal fees, and that's kind of what Louise is suggesting.
Phone call.
I'm gonna reverse myself and suggest that I do have a preferred strategy around this. My suggestion is just leave it in, put it in our back pocket, and that may be something we choose to remove post public hearing.
I'm there. I'm with you.
Yeah, it sounds like,
Good idea.
Agreed. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, are there other cuts you want to make at this time?
I think we had that conversation, but. No, I think we did. I don't mean to be rude. I appreciate the question, because I think we decided we were gonna go to the public hearing and then.
Yeah, well, if nobody has any other recommended changes, cuts or increases, then we could entertain a motion once again, to pass the budget as it is in front of us now. Or not to pass the budget, but to confirm the budget as it is now, as the basis upon which we'll go to public hearing next week. Louise, you want to make your motion again, or was that Joanne?
no, that was me. I would like to make a motion to accept what we have here and to present that at the meeting.
Okay. Anybody like to second that motion?
Second it.
Okay,
Joanne.
Joanne seconds. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, let's take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And do we have any abstentions? Okay, hearing none, I think the motion passes. Thank you. Any further budget discussions?
I have a question there, Mark, Diane might have asked it, I apologize. So will we be getting this revised copy sent to us once everything is finalized? Earlier this time? And I don't mean that rudely, I know it's a lot of work, but can we get it a few days ahead just so that I can have time to really look at it
Yeah,
before?
did you understand that question, Eric? Diane or Joanne is just asking if we can get a copy of the budget well in advance of the meeting. It sounds like you've got most of it covered here.
I mean, you voted to send this exact budget to the public budget hearing, so I see no reason why I can't hit save and send it all to you right now.
But you
Did
still
you-
have a few things to research.
You adjust the notes maybe, and
Yeah.
those can be done. I don't think that's material to what we're trying to do here, but yeah, I agree with it, Eric. There's probably really no reason you can't send that, right? So,
I appreciate it. No criticism, just a question. Thank you.
Yeah, understood.
any further discussion? Okay, thank you, Eric. Hearing none, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which again is public speak. Doesn't look like we have any members of the public in attendance. Okay, so we'll move on to agenda item 6, which is adjournment. Would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it. I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, I think that was Louise making a motion
Yep.
to adjourn. Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, Rob seconds. Thank you. Any discussion? Oh, well, I'm sorry, I skipped a I skipped an agenda item. I'm sorry, I'm going to back us up a little bit, but agenda item 4 is correspondence. Anybody have any correspondence that they need to share? I did receive an email from Jerry Cremay and the Board of Education with an excerpt of the town charter language, and he addresses the question of the Board of Finance making changes to the school line item. I will forward that to everybody for review. I haven't read it closely myself, but my interpretation of the town charter is as stated earlier. I believe that it implies the Board of Finance can make changes to the recommended budget for the Board of Education prior to the town budget meeting. But again, we're going to get the attorney's opinion on that one. So sorry to back up on that one. Okay, so again, no public speak. We have a motion for adjournment. I think then that was made by Louise and seconded by Rob. That's still on the table, on the floor, I should say. Any discussion on adjournment? Okay, hearing none, we'll take a vote. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, any abstentions? Motion passes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody. We're making some progress here.